Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In today's video, I would like to discuss my journey discovering video games. And my journey goes back to the PlayStation 2 / PlayStation 1 era. So, I have cerebral palsy, and after being diagnosed with my form of cerebral palsy, my family, mainly my dad, wanted to find ways of trying to increase the functionality within my right side of my body. And also try and work on my hand-eye coordination. So he discovered the PlayStation 2. And I remember receiving the box from my mum, and it was the big fat PlayStation 2, the first ever model of the PlayStation 2. And that came with a bunch of demo discs. Within those demo discs were some of my all-time favourite today classic games and franchises. For example, Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex was my first ever Crash Bandicoot game. There was a Tony Hawk skateboarding style game, not entirely sure what Tony Hawk game it was, but it was incredible. Didn't know how to play it. And there was also this dogs game which was called, I think, a Dog's Life or something. I don't know what I don't know what it's called. And I always remember I was very inspired and blown away by Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex because I was entering a new field of entertainment, and I was only about maybe 5, 6, 7 years old back then, and I thought Crash Bandicoot looked like a rooster chicken character. I wasn't very well versed knowing what a bandicoot was or any other type of animal outside of a dog or a cat or anything like that. So I used to play that demo all the time. And when it basically did the time over thing, I got really confused on why the screen just sort of ended and went dark, and you had to reset the console again. But moving forward past that, I remember another game I used to play a lot, because my gaming back then consisted of Crash and also Sonic as well. Sonic. Now the Sonic portion goes back to 2003, 2004, when I went to Wales to visit my family, and also discovered where my first ever dog came from, and that was a British Bulldog. And we stopped in this little gaming store, and they had Sonic Heroes on the back shelf, and I wanted to get a Scooby-Doo game, and basically I picked Sonic and never went back, because I just fell in love with the character, just the speed and just the speed and the jumping and the basically taking down all the evil characters and stuff like that. And that was my first ever Sonic game. Now moving forward, I remember receiving another PlayStation 2. And this was the slimmer version, and my first ever memory of that was playing The Godfather, the video game, with my dad. My dad was a big fan of The Godfather and still is today. And I remember we were playing up to the graveyard scene where one of the characters was hitting one of the evil characters in the head with a shovel, and he was saying to me and his sister, he was like, "Oh, look at that! Oh, that looks so real, doesn't it? That looks just so real, the graphics." And considering that was the PlayStation 2, and that was around the PlayStation 2 era. The graphics, according to my dad, at the time, were next level and very immersive and very realistic to him. So that was a very good. That was a very good memory, and that I will always cherish forever. Now moving forward to the Nintendo Wii era. So I basically owned a Nintendo Wii because I basically got a load of I got all of the consoles that had Sonic games on it because I was a big fan of Sonic back then, and still am today, but not as much as I was back then. And I used to play that. And I used to play Rayman Raving Rabbids, and that wasn't my first ever Rayman game. My first ever Rayman game was Rayman 2 on the PC. And my PC era of gaming consisted of licensed games like Taz Most Wanted, Rayman 2, some educational games, and the odd Sonic game here and there. Like Sonic R, Sonic 3D. And also as well, around the PlayStation 2 era, the only games that I would play back then were Sonic games, Crash games, and the odd few licensed games that are considered classics today. So like The Simpsons Hit and Run, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob the Movie Game. So those sorts of games, alongside Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 1 and 2, and a load of other games, and also The Godfather. Never forget The Godfather. That was my first ever GTA Grand Theft Auto open world style game, and I feel very nostalgic towards the game when I listen to the soundtrack because of obviously me playing it when I was a young kid. Now my other memories of games was in school, and this will be very surprising to many of you, but my first ever exposure to Call of Duty was in a history class because the teacher wanted us to learn about a certain type of history, which was, I think it was World War II. So he basically got out his Xbox and he said to us, and I still find it funny to this day, he said to us, "Do not tell anyone about this for our lesson. This is a one-off. So never again," he said, "never again." So he basically told us all to sit round in a little like rectangle table, which we did, and all of us had one go each on this level. And I basically got a chance to play the game, and because it was a first-person game, I had no idea what I was doing. So I died in about 2 to 5 seconds of playing the game. But that was my first ever exposure to Call of Duty, but not my first ever exposure to first-person shooters, because that title goes to Peter Jackson's King Kong. And I used to play that game a lot growing up because I was a big fan of the film back then. But because it was a first-person game, I used to get very annoyed. And my cousin had a complete full save of the game on his memory card, so he allowed me to transfer his saved memory over onto my memory card. And also he was a very important part of my life when it comes to Crash Bandicoot, because he had the first ever Crash game on the PlayStation 1, and I basically he allowed me to take it from him, and I used to play it a lot on the PlayStation 2 because that was how I used to play PlayStation 1 games back then. But basically, in my early days, the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 were just home to Crash Bandicoot, Sonic, and licensed games, like I've said previously, like Disney games and stuff like that, and Buzz Lightyear and all that. And going back to school once again, I discovered that consoles can be used to enhance to enhance strength and fitness, not just hand-eye coordination or increasing functionality. Now, I remember I used to playing a lot of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, the first one, with my support worker at the time, and we used to do that for an hour because I had a 2-hour slot for physical education, or PE, as we call it in England, and just kind of quickly wrap up now. So moving on, my first ever Call of Duty game was Call of Duty Black Ops 1. Used to play it a lot with my school friends online and stuff like that. And then my other memory was when I first got my Kinect for the Xbox 360, and that was a very good sort of piece of equipment. I did struggle because of my cerebral palsy, but looking back now, if it wasn't for gaming, my physical capabilities wouldn't have been enhanced, or my hand-eye coordination wouldn't have been increased. So even though gaming isn't seen as a well-versed, good for the long term, for me, and having cerebral palsy, without gaming, my cerebral palsy wouldn't be where it is today, because gaming allowed me to try and challenge the stigma and to try and prove to people that regardless of conditions, disabilities, impairments, we can still enjoy what's on offer within the entertainment industry. We just have to try and find ways of I'm just trying to find ways of trying to somewhat making it more accessible for people with conditions, and that is not trying to say to the people, well, try and put this into the next system, and just trying to challenge the stigma, to say that regardless of difficulty, there are many ways of trying to make it easier without trying to make a whole new system. But without gaming, my overall understanding of what cerebral palsy or any condition can achieve wouldn't be realized today. So because of gaming, I have more upper body strength, more determination, more resilience, and more understanding of what is out there for people with conditions and disabilities and impairments, and what is out there to help people who are not able to enjoy gaming in the initial vision, can try and utilize to try and make it easier for them. So, like, for example, adaptable controllers, accessible equipment, like motion sensing technology, and stuff like that. Because with the Nintendo Wii, all you have to do is just move the controller around and you're good to go. With the Kinect, you just have to stand there within the walking frame or within any other walking piece of equipment, and there you go. So gaming, to me, looking back at my life, or looking back at the mini story that I've just told you, is it can be very universal. It can be very accessible. You just have to try and find the best way that works for the individual. And at the end of the day, gaming is fun, but most importantly, gaming is a community, and gaming can bring many people to the entertainment medium. Thank you.